What's up everybody? Welcome back to another Gears of War 4 video. My name's Dutch and I'm here to help you guys by giving you my 10 tips that are easy to apply in the game. These tips are meant for any player, new or old, because I still notice today that the majority of players are dying by not knowing some crucial details, or of course missing out on a lot of kills. So without further ado, let's get started. Tip number 1. Whenever you're at a corner or in the middle of the map awaiting enemies, always keep turning your camera a little bit. And this has to do with your peripheral vision and will help you catch enemies who believe you're not expecting them. I still see many players today that stare down the right side of a wall but get killed because they believe the other player doesn't expect this. Besides awareness, this will also work on your agility with your right stick because you get into the habit of moving unconsciously. Tip number 2. Keep running. Yes, roadie run at any weapon or area that you can. And why? Because it shows your teammates that you're moving with purpose and you're keeping your head down. Obviously you shouldn't roadie run at every single step, but it will help you get used to moving faster around the map and overall getting better at the movement system. Tip number 3. Be prepared for 2 versus 1s at any time whenever you're moving to the middle of the map. The key word here is prepared, and this is because the average time you have to fight an enemy is around 5 seconds. And this comes from the fact that it takes about 7 seconds to get to the middle area of the map, where your team or the opponent's team can help with support fire. So if the fight takes longer than 3 to 5 seconds, get ready to run or finish off 2 enemies. Tip number 4. Use meat shields whenever possible. Meat shields can and will save you a world of pain whenever you're in a gunfight and a second player shows up, or whenever you run out of bullets right after the fight and have to reload. Pressing the pickup button is much faster than pressing the melee or an execute button because it's an instant execution. Also, whenever you're walking around with a meat shield and would like to drop it instantly, just press on one of your weapon selections and it'll drop the meat shield right away. Tip number 5. Grab any grenades or important power weapons whenever you can, so the other team can't. Power weapon control is very important in any of the versus modes because they can change the fight drastically. Weapons like the boom and drop shot are insane combat multipliers because of their damage output. Not picking up these weapons when you can will always lead to your team's death whenever you're playing against good players. Tip number 6. Don't be afraid to get shot at. Now this should go without saying, but the health system in Gears of War is made in such a way that you can recover health even in combat. And that means that even if you're being shot by one person, you shouldn't be afraid to take a few bullets to the chest when fighting. A lot of good players will go for one-shot kills, but will attempt to weaken you from afar. This way they can gauge whether or not you're afraid to fight because your screen will tell you to recover. Don't get discouraged whenever you're at 80 to 90% damage. Make them think you're indestructible. Tip number 7. Always use your TAC Comm whenever you're out of combat. This way you can keep track of your teammates and see where the weak spots are in the map. Ideally, you always want to build one big strong wall of fire along the center line of the map, whether that's vertically or horizontally. So if your teammates are out of crucial positions, it's up to you to make up for it because your enemies will always exploit that weak area before trampling all over you. Tip number 8. Learn to fight alone, but with others. It's very important to know going into Gears that your team is only as strong as its weakest link. Hanging around your teammates the whole game won't do you or your team much good if you're constantly in the worst position. The same goes for trying to fight one person with 3 or 4 people every time. A good Gears player believes in positioning over numbers because a good player can and will take out 2 to 3 enemies who are out of position and get in each other's way. The moral of this tip is to learn to stand on your own 2 feet instead of running after your crowd. Tip number 9. Never do the exact same thing twice, even if it works. You'll notice in versus whenever you're playing against good players that they'll find and crush your weakness at every turn they get, and it doesn't take them very long to find it. Even the most perfected executed attack has a weak link somewhere that can only be avoided by switching to a slightly different play. As an example, think of wall bouncing twice while fighting somebody instead of 3 times. Even the smallest change can throw off your enemy and make them reset their strategy. And the last tip is figure out a plan of attack or defend for each area of the map. Again, this should go without saying, but it's imperative you take the time to learn the weak and the strong angles of everything on the map, even certain covers. The better your competition gets, the more and faster these things start to matter. So do your homework right and go into a private by yourself or with friends and start walking around the map trying to find new angles to fire from and timing how long it takes them to reach. So that's it. I hope these 10 tips have helped you out, and if they did, please consider leaving a like and comment on which one you didn't know yet. Also, if you believe I forgot any of them, leave a comment so that you can share your knowledge with everybody. I'd like to thank you again for watching, and I hope to catch you on the battlefield. Good luck!